Hey guys, what's going on? Tyrauku here. I hope you're all doing great. Today I came across a thread on Reddit, which is sometimes quite the adventure, browsing around really on any raid social media. Sometimes it's awesome, great community, and sometimes it gets a little bit toxic. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it, but overall, Reddit is a fun place to browse every now and then. But I've seen a thread that I actually get asked about quite often. These terms are kind of like the term free to play. So free to play is a term that I don't understand exactly how it's usually used, like used loosely. Basically people say, oh, I'm free to play, but I only get the gym pack. I got the battle pass. I get some of the monthly deals every now and then, but overall I'm free to play. Well, by definition, by the exact use of that word, free to play, maybe if you use your mom's credit card, maybe that'd make you free to play, right? Like if you didn't spend the money, and maybe that's it. But we're not going to get into the discussion of free to play and what exactly that defines. But what I do want to talk about is the definitions of early game, mid game, late game. All right. Now, as the thumbnail said, you're wrong. Honestly, I'm probably wrong. We're all probably wrong. But I wanted to go through here because I think this is something interesting to talk about, because a lot of times, like if you're somebody who goes on like Twitch streams or comment on YouTube videos or like watch anybody really at all, obviously if you're watching this video, you're probably at least watching one content creator. But people a lot of times say, oh, if you're early game, you may be able to do this. If you're mid game, you should be able to do this, in game, all this kind of stuff. Okay. Or they may say, oh, this is like a super late game build or a late game build. Different terms for the different types of areas of the game you're at, right? Well, not everybody knows what these exactly mean. All right. So especially if you're a newer player, you may see these terms thrown around and you don't understand, hey, I just started playing. I'm almost at Arbiter. Does that mean I'm late game? Well, let's see what everybody else says on Reddit. So the question is literally, could someone describe these types of players so I could know where I stand? Thank you in advance. So this is actually a pretty good question. I mean, a lot of people are wondering this. I've seen this asked, like I said, a ton of times in my stream. So let's go over it. Let me show you guys a few people who've responded. First off, I want to go to Dan Dragona. I've seen his comment here. He's a clan member of mine. So let's go ahead and show his. I'll show him in the clan, but I don't know where he's at, honestly. We're down here. Yeah, there he is. Okay, so let's see. It's extremely subjective. I couldn't agree more. Early game areas are dungeon progression, getting more 60s and sorting out a clan boss team. Mid game areas are 20 dungeons, normal Doom Tower, maybe low silver tag team arena, and progressing clan boss. In game areas are refining faction wars and hard Doom Tower. Super in game areas are secret rooms and plat arena. So this is one opinion. There's a ton of different opinions. Honestly, I got my list and we're going to break it down on a whiteboard in just a few minutes, but I'm not going to go in depth because there's so many different variables and there's going to be more variables added down the road, right? Because you could add like, okay, if you have 500 faction war stars, then you're going to be this area of the game. But in all honesty, you kind of just want the high level view and you can kind of figure out where you fit in there, right? So another person left a comment saying there's no clear definition. So Dende, there's no clear definition. So you'll throw yours out. Okay, let's see. Early game, starting the game to the point you can consistently farm stage 13. Mid game, farming all stages 13 dungeons to the point of consistently farming stage 20 dungeons and clearing Doom Tower normal. Late game, farming stage 20 dungeons to the point of farming stage 25, beating at least the first 4 bosses of Doom Tower, finishing faction wars. In-game is the late game definition to the point of clearing Doom Tower hard. Super in-game is clearing Doom Tower hard to the point of clearing all secret rooms. 1 key Ultra Nightmare, consistently finishing in plat. So these two definitions, even from these two people, Dan Dragona and Dende, are actually pretty different, right? I'd say that Dan Dragona is pushing the in-game like a little bit further out. Maybe I could be mistaken though, but it looks like Dende is giving people the benefit of the doubt and saying you're late game a little bit sooner, and probably quite a bit sooner than what I'm going to say as well. To be honest, if you're just starting a raid and you're watching this video as one of your first ones, you may look at the game and be like, okay, wow, I'm going to be spending a lot of time playing this game, because it does. I'm going to break down some of the ideas about how long I think things took me, at least, and then I'll share kind of like my ideas on this stuff. Okay, so let's go to one more person. You're early game from the beginning until you finish Nightmare Campaign. A mid-game player can clear all dungeons 20. You start to transition to in-game once you get to 4 key, the Ultra Nightmare boss. You get to in-game when you finish all faction wars and get Lydia. The super in-game player is somebody gets over floor 100 in each rotation, Doom Tower hard, and has a ton of legendary champions to make up new and easy synergies. So this from Droger is also definitely not a wrong answer per se, but I think this is given the like basically, if this was like a graph, it would look like, okay, so it would say this is gonna be some top level artwork. So if you guys want me to commission some pieces or something, definitely send me a message. I'll link my Discord down below. You guys can send me a message there, and I'll commission you some high quality whiteboard artwork. So basically, Droger's graph would probably be like this. Okay, so this would be like early game, This would be mid game. So early game right there, mid game. This one would be late game. What the heck am I doing? Okay, let's go back. This would be late game, and this would be super in game, because the way Droger has it written out, there's a lot more stuff you can do in in-game, I feel like. Okay, so I feel like this one's very, okay, you move through the first parts pretty quickly, seemingly, and then you're late game, in-game pretty quickly. Let me go over what I think, and honestly, if you guys want, leave it down in the comments what you think, okay? Do you think early game is when you spend $10, late game is when you spend $100, and super in-game is when you spend $10,000? Maybe you judge it by money spent, maybe you judge it by level 60s you got, but I'm definitely curious. I mean, this isn't necessarily like an informative video per se. Maybe some people are actually interested in knowing what content creators or people in general consider these different areas of the game, but I thought it was something interesting to share. So let me show you what I would think and how I would kind of categorize these different things. Okay, now this is not gonna be the best art. Actually, just kidding. It is gonna be the best. Let's get into the drawing. All right. So I'm gonna do early game. It's gonna be right here. So this part right here is gonna be an early game. And then I'm gonna say early game for me, honestly, is up until you get Arbiter. So early game is going to be quite a big gap. So basically to get Arbiter, now you don't actually have to literally have Arbiter, but if you can do all the stuff to get the Arbiter missions complete, which I believe is like getting up to gold 3 in the arena, maybe getting all the level 20 dungeons complete, I'd say that's kind of early game. Honestly, you could even split this and say, okay, up to stage 16 in dungeons is early, okay? So it's a very big range, definitely for early game that I have here. But I think mid game, instead of categorizing these all into like early, mid, late, like this is not a steak. I don't want rare, medium rare, well done, medium. No, we're not doing all those small definitions. I just want to do early, mid game, late game, and end game, because there are some pretty big gaps in there. So this is my idea. Basically, until you get Arbiter, your early game. I think it's a pretty fair guess. Now, this is not going to go into clan boss, nothing like that. This is just where we're at currently, okay? So, mid game. Personally, for me, mid game is going to be the longest area in the game. So, if you're into any martial arts, kind of like jiu-jitsu, okay? So, I'll give you this as an example. Jiu-jitsu is a martial art that takes quite a while to progress in. But for the example, when you're a white belt, it takes about a year. So now this is not going to take a year, scale this down by like 3 times, but it takes about a year. When you're in blue belt, which would be like the mid game of the raid world, it takes like 3 years to get a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, maybe even 4. No, sorry, to move from blue to purple. So this is kind of where we're at right now. Okay, we're in that middle area, which is going to be the main meat of the game. And this, in my opinion, and I have it written down on a notepad, is when you have Arbiter, or you at least have all the stuff done to get Arbiter, so you've done all the dungeons. Why am I drawing more lines? You're working towards Lydia, so you may not have Lydia yet, but you're working towards her. You finished your Arbiter missions. You're working towards Lydia. You're making some good progress, and you're doing Nightmare and pushing for Ultra Nightmare Clan Boss. Basically, at this point in the game, you're also just farming stage 20s. I mean, obviously, if you got Arbiter already, you're farming stage 20s on dungeons. So this is going to be, let's clear this thing. Okay, so progress, or okay, so let's say to Lydia. You're working on Lydia. You are farming 20s, and you may be even working towards 25s. You may be at 25s, working toward them. You're probably at this point doing Ultra Nightmare and Nightmare Clan Boss. You should be, because part of the Arbiter missions were to do damage on Ultra Nightmare and Nightmare Clan Boss. So you're working on these. You're farming pretty consistently. This is going to be the part in the game where you start spending a ton of silver. You're moving gear around from champion to champion, trying to finish faction wars, because it costs so much silver to move stuff around. This is where players, you start to kind of, you're kind of building some like speed farming teams for 20s, because you're going to be doing a lot of gear farming. Spider's going to be a dungeon you're spending a lot of time in. You're working on that. At this point, you're probably doing quite a bit of normal Doom Tower. Maybe not all of it, but I'd say a pretty good chunk of it. Maybe even all of it once you get towards like this later part of this mid-game, like I said. Now, granted, like I said, I don't want to break this down into like, okay, let's go to this microscopic area right here. This is middle of the middle game. Okay, so we're going to kind of do the overall view, like I said. So Lydia, you're working towards her. You don't have her yet. You're farming stage 20s on dungeons, Ultra Nightmare and Nightmare Clan Boss. This is going to take quite a while. Now, the next stage is going to be late game. So late game, this is where I would say I'm at. Honestly, I'd say I'm somewhere late game and end game, to be honest. Like, so I'd say I'm saying I'm not going to do these little categorizations, but that's exactly what I'm doing. So I'd say I'm late to end game, somewhere around there for my account. So late game, my definition that I have over here on a notepad. Look at this high quality artwork, guys. So we have notepad on the side, and we have this graph whiteboard of some sorts we're using, okay? So late game is going to be, you have Lydia, okay? So you're finishing Doom Tower. So like you're at the point now where you can finish all of Doom Tower. You can do hard and normal. So that, I guess that would categorize mid game as being able to start doing hard. You basically are finishing normal. You're starting to do hard. I haven't like seen how difficult normal was for like a newer account. Like, are you pushing there very early? I know some people are. It really depends on your champions, of course. So different Doom Tower rotations, you're going to finish more, or you may finish less on things like the Bommel current rotation. This one's pretty painful, pretty difficult to say the least. So mid game, you'll definitely be finishing normal. You'll be working towards hard. Once you get into late game, you're going to be doing hard Doom Tower. You should be able to finish all of hard Doom Tower. You're going to have Lydia. So let me go add the notes here. So finish hard and normal, GT. All right. And then you're going to have Lydia, in my opinion. You're going to be doing like a 1 key, maybe 2 key, depending on your team, Ultra Nightmare, and you're going to be doing a Nightmare Clan Boss every day, okay? So you're going to be doing probably 1 key Nightmare, you're going to be doing a 1 or 2 key Ultra Nightmare, depending on how your team is set up and how well they perform. You're going to be doing speed farms of all your teams, basically. Your Dragons, your Fire Knight, your Ice Golem, your Spider teams, they're basically going to be looking pretty fast, okay? So your teams like Spider, you're going to have these 20-second runs, 30-second runs on stage 20, most likely. Stage 25, you're probably going to have sub 1 minute runs. You're going to be working towards that. You're going to be farming most likely 24, 25, maybe depending on how you feel with your gear. But 24, 25 is where you're probably going to be spending most of your time farming. You're going to have a team doing most of these runs sub 3 minutes, like Dragons and Fire Knights, because anything more than 3 minutes, it's a very tanky, survivable team. And anything less than 3 minutes is typically more so like damage heavy, nukers, and you're moving through the waves quicker. So it's kind of saying where your gear's at. If you're moving quickly through the waves, obviously your gear is to a level where you can do that. So I'd say Dragons is going to be one of the more quicker ones. Like you can see mine on stage 25 right now is a minute. I'd say a good time for this would be anything under 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes for Dragon is a pretty good time. Fire Knights, honestly, for 25, anything under 3.5, 4 minutes is a pretty decent time. That's like reasonable enough. Okay, I can leave this on overnight. I can wake up and my energy will be spent. I don't have to worry about going to bed. My energy not be spent. Well, I guess it depends on how much energy you load up before you go to bed, right? But that should be a decent time. Fire Knight takes a little bit longer just because of how the waves work. Ice Golem's gonna be about the same, 4 minutes, somewhere around there. Anything less than that, it's a pretty decent time. 3.5, 4 minutes, because Ice Golem is probably the longest actually. Fire Knight and Ice Golem, it really depends on your champions. If you have Cold Hearts, you can knock the shield down on Fire Knight pretty quickly. Ice Golem, the issue is that you can't really do a ton of damage to him. So like for me, I use Bad L solo farming this, so it works out very, very well on stage 25. But if you use a regular team, you got to be careful what you bring because you may proc his big slam quite often, and it can really mess your team up. So obviously, I think once you get into late game, you're going to be starting working on those fine-tuning your teams. You have Lydia. So at this point, all your silver is just being saved up. It's going to min-maxing your gear. You're starting to clear out your inventory because at this point in the game, you've used all the gear for your champion that you really need. Like you put your crappy pieces of gear on champions who you're really never going to use again. So now you can start selling those. You can start doing some artifact, some gear cleanses, which I need to do on my account because my gear storage is pretty packed at 978 pieces. At this point in the game, I should have like way less gear because right now, basically I am looking for gold, okay? I'm just trying to get rid of all the not so good pieces that if I was still mid-game that I would say, oh, this piece is great, okay? But at this point, I'm looking for the pieces that are going to be basically make or break for either speed tune dungeons or moving up in arena and doing better and better in the arena. So late game, that's kind of what my opinions are on that. Finish hard and normal Doom Tower. You have Lydia, 1 and 2 key Ultra Nightmare. You may push for Plat. Maybe you get it every now and then. Obviously, Plat placing is a little bit of a tricky thing to judge by because for me, it's 4 in the morning, okay? So, and also it's a difficult thing to say, oh, I could make Plat if I pushed because your champions may be to that level, but it also takes a decent amount of game knowledge as well. My champions aren't bad, but I've only placed Plat a few times. So it's a very big mix between game knowledge and having the champions that are good enough. I've placed on people's accounts, one person in particular whose account was very much like mid-game, and I placed on his account. He had Hegemon and Rotos before the nerf, and it really wasn't that difficult to place. Whereas on my account, I've only placed a handful of times. So it's a very big difference on the champions you have. So Plat's a little tricky to associate with where in the game. Obviously, if you're placing consistently, you're definitely going to be on the end game or even the late game side of things, right? Now, the in-game side of things, I want to talk about this because this also is going to have a lot of variables as well. Honestly, I don't know where what's at. So I think this is in-game. I don't know what this big space down here is. Maybe that's when you're debating on quitting the game. Oh, that's probably when you go free to play. Because once you've done all this stuff, your money spent down here. So if you spend $1 right here, that's worth like a lot of money. That's worth like a lot in game. Okay, so you don't really have any champions. So $1 spent getting an ancient shard is worth good. Anything you pull is probably gonna be a unique champion, and it's gonna be good for you, right? Now that's dollar. When you get down here, I think it's called inflation, right? Like that dollar you spend now has to become $100 to get the same value. All right. So Raid's teaching us inflation, easy. All right. So the dollar you spend back here is worth about the same as $100 you spend down here. And in a way, I'm being sarcastic and kind of joking around. But when you have an account that has so many legendaries, it costs so much money and so much farming and time to actually get new unique champions that, to be honest, this may not be too far off. Where you could spend $1 back here and get a unique or like a champion who's actually going to change your account. It very well may take this much money to actually get a somewhat game-changing champion. Honestly, this may not be exaggerating at all, because I've probably spent more than this to do that. Now, I don't know. We're not gonna get into that, but there you go. That's gonna be a little example of the inflation of Raid, which is kind of interesting. So this is where you become free to play. You realize that your money is not really worth it. Not worth. So no worth. This is basically the worst handwriting I've ever seen in my life. All right. Now, this right here is gonna be in-game. I know you guys can't really see this cursor, so let's put in-game. And oh my gosh, what is these? What are these letters? Wow. All right, but either way, you guys get the point. Okay, so in game, this is going to be when you're doing the Doom Tower completely, normal and hard. You're working on secret rooms. Basically, at this point in the game, you are taking champions like that you would never level before. Okay, so like Soulbound Bowyer, you're taking her, you're leveling her up to 60 because the rooms that require rare attack-based champions, you can't really do it without a Soulbound Bowyer because you need to stun everybody. Right? You need this AoE ability. You're taking champions like Gnarlhorn to level 60. Why? Because the HP rooms, the rare HP-based champions or whatever, HP-based champion rooms on, I haven't done all the secret rooms. I think they're a headache. I don't love them. But you're starting to take champions that, even as a brand new player, you wouldn't take to level 60, but now you're having to start taking them to 60 and investing in them and fully building them up because of these daggone Doom Tower secret rooms, which I'm trying to see if there's any super obnoxious ones right now. I'm not seeing any yet. Epic champions only. So right now it's okay. Moving up where I am currently, it's not too bad. But this is the point of the game where it's like, oh man, what am I spending a ton of time min-maxing your stuff? So you're getting your secret rooms done. You're min-maxing gear. A lot of overnight farming. You're getting your gear. Majority of the gear you farm from dungeons is going to be sold more or less instantly, right? Like you're looking for those triple rolls. You're looking for the quad rolls. You may take some double rolls if it's like really good crit rate, speed, something like that. You may take a few double rolls, but mostly you're looking for triple rolls. You're looking to move your speed booster from 380 speed to now 382 speed, okay? You're willing to do whatever it takes. Maybe even spending some money in the shop, which you probably have already been doing for quite a while now to buy speed gear, maybe or maybe not. I bought it one time. I bought the 7 packs or whatever. Terrible. I had like a 350 Arbiter and didn't get any speed boost whatsoever. But you can do the Doom Tower, you can do the secret rooms. Obviously, you're doing all the stuff that the other parts of the game was doing. If you push plat, you have the champions and you have the arsenal to place plat pretty easily. Most of the game now for you is like pushing for like world record times. If you can get them, you're pushing, like you're up here on the leaderboards, all right? So like you're pretty high up here. You may not be doing these, but you're definitely being competitive, right? Like your turns are not ridiculously high. You're not like me who hasn't even done this part yet. You're moving along pretty quickly. Your dungeon times, they're not going to be the 3 and 4 minutes. 3 and 4 minutes is out of this world, unheard of for you, okay? You're looking for the sub 2 minutes times. If it's above 2 minutes, you're not doing it, right? So sub 2 minute times, basically ideal. You're farming your masteries, no problem. Basically, this part of the game, it's just cruising. You're finishing the tournaments and events pretty easily because once you get to this part of the game, I feel like you have quite a bit of extra resources. You don't really have to make any 60s like you have to make like tomorrow to progress your account because you really ain't got nothing else left to do. So whenever champion training events come up, you can just go in here to your champion storage and say, okay, let me go ahead and drop in 1,000 brews and boom, or a couple hundred brews, max out the event, easy peasy, no problem. But that's my idea. Like I said, all of this is subjective, except for this artwork. This is not subjective. This artwork looks good. And if anybody says anything different, well, you're wrong. You're wrong, okay? But joking aside, let me know what you guys think. If you want to drop it down below, like a quick little bullet point thing, where you think early game, mid game, late game, end game is at. Maybe I missed some stuff. Obviously, I didn't get into the details. Like I said, I wasn't going to break it down to mid game or early mid game, late mid game, middle of mid game. It's not a stake. We're not breaking it down that much, but I think this is something interesting. 19 minutes of rambling on about opinions. So let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you found this video at least somewhat entertaining. Thank you all very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will catch you guys in the next video.